Today we start our next unit, and it is about cells and healing. So we start off with this question, and just think about your favorite activity that involves moving your body. So here we got some activities here. We got people playing soccer, or jump rope, skateboarding, painting, dancing, wheelchair basketball, lots of things. So, just for a second, think about what you like to do. And the second part is, what parts of your body do you use when you're doing that activity? So if we look at, a soccer player, we're using our feet. The wheelchair basketball, somebody's using their arm to move the wheelchair or throw the ball. Skateboarding, using the hands and the feet. So just, kind of think of your activity and kind of think about what you would use there. Then think of a time maybe when you were unable to do your favorite activity. So think of a time when that happened, and then think of these three questions. So why were you not able to do that activity? What was wrong with your body that you were not able to do it? How long was it before you could do that activity again? Was it a couple days? Was it a week? Was it a couple months? What happened, and how long would it take to heal? Finally, what were some things you had to do so your body could heal again, and you could get that done? So, did you have to, put a cast on? What did you have to do to make the body be able to let itself heal? Okay. So what we want to do now is we're going to look at a person, not one of us, but just a student out there in the world. Our phenomenon is this kid. It says, today this middle school student can walk, run, and jump. However, 4 months ago, he had an injury that prevented him from being able to do these things. And so we just imagine one of these boys here that, something happened. And the situation was he dropped a heavy weight on his foot during PE class, during gym. And after that happened, he was not able to stand, walk, or run, and he had lots of pain. And so our question is, why do you think he was not able to do those activities after the injury? So in class, we kind of came up with a couple theories that maybe he broke a bone in his foot. Maybe it was very bruised or sprained or something. Some tissue damage, something happened to the skin, or maybe something with the muscle, or a broken bone, like we said. So we just kind of talked about maybe some ideas of what might have happened there. We are now going to switch out a little bit. We're going to take a look at this person's emergency room report, and we're going to see what happened to this person. Okay, so here's the emergency room report. We see that the injury happened on 2/26/18. Incident was he dropped a weight room, or something happened in a weight room. Type of injury, he has lacerations or cuts on the top of his foot. The skin is broken open. Appears that there's some broken bones. Patient can't put any weight on the foot. There's some swelling around the injury. When they tested his foot, he can't feel anything on the top of his foot, but he can feel things in the bottom, the sides, his toes, and his heel. So something's wrong with the top of his foot that he can't feel anything up there. They did some x-rays, and so we look at the x-rays here. So the first one showing, this is the big toe. This is his left foot. So that's his big toe there, and then the 4 other toes here. You see these 2 arrows, they're showing where he actually had some broken bones. So the damage here was some actually broken bones in his foot. So they're showing it there. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. I think they just kind of moved the foot a little to the side so you can kind of see how it's a little deeper, maybe, because you can kind of see this bone right here, and the big toe is not seeing like this. So I think they just had to move his foot to the side a little bit more so you can actually see how the bones are broken more. And then this is the side of his foot. So his toes are over here. This is kind of like the middle of his foot, and his heel is off screen here. It'd be a little further to the left. So we're just seeing some x-rays there. Diagnosis, he broke his 2nd and 3rd metatarsal bones, which are those guys right there. And they were shifted to the right. So they kind of broke and moved to the right. And it says he's going to need surgery to reduce the space between those bones to make them heal and to stabilize and realign them. So we did some notice and wonders about that. The next thing we did, we looked at the post-operation report after he had his surgery. So we're going to take a look at that next. Okay, so here's his post-operation report. This is the same day, so he literally had surgery that day that he dropped his weight. So it wasn't like it's a couple days later, it was the same day. So they have our notes here. So the patient was put under anesthetic, which means they put him to sleep so he could do the surgery. The patient's wound was irrigated with water. They kind of flushed it out, make sure there was no dirt or anything else that wasn't supposed to be in the body in there. They scrubbed the skin with antibacterial soap, kill any germs. They made a cut at the top of his foot so they could get in there and look at the bones and stuff. They used dissolvable stitches to attach the muscle back together after they cut through it to do all the fixing, so they wouldn't have to go back in and take those stitches out. It says they put 2 4-inch stainless steel pins in to reduce the gap, to close those, to put the bones back together. They closed the back of his foot, the top of his foot back up and stitched it up. They put a plaster cast on it. He had to stay in hospital for a night just to make sure everything was okay. He still has no feeling on top of his foot before or after the surgery. He's going to get some PT, learning how to use crutches, and he has to come back in a week. So that's his post-operation report. At this point, we wanted to just kind of get everybody's idea of what healing was. So we kind of had some ideas of different things. So, people were saying stuff like, it's when the body is hurt and it goes back to what it used to be able to do, or injury is when you go back to normal over time, or a wound closes up. It's a process of recovering from an injury. So for each of our classes, we kind of just came up with a quick one-sentence definition of healing that we kind of all agreed on. And it has something to do with, body kind of fixing itself to get back to normal. So all the classes kind of came to some idea like that. After that, we wanted to look at some recovery reports and find signs of healing, like how do we know healing is going on, and kind of look at a timeline of how things looked as the weeks went by, like what it looked like, how he was looking better, and how this foot was getting better. So we're going to take a look at that next. Okay, so we have our chart, and it just has a timeline. So we're kind of going from when the injury happened, over on the left here, to when the foot was healed on the right. We have RR1, RR2, RR3, and RR4. That's recovery report 1, recovery report 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to look for clues for healing or signs of healing, and then why it showed that it was healing. So we're going to keep switching back and forth between a report and coming back to this document. Okay, here's our first recovery report. This is about 2 weeks later, I think. So on 2/26, he had the surgery, and he went back for that one visit to see what's going on. So we have swelling is going down, patient can wiggle the toes, no feeling still on top of the foot. Patient's not in any pain, and they can't move their foot like they used to. There's a diminished range of motion that they can move their feet and toes. The x-rays show that the bones are lined up and that the gap where the crack happened is a little smaller, so it looks like the bones are going back together. They cleaned the pin sites. They took the stitches out and put on like a butterfly bandage, as they call them. They put a new cast on. They did some PT, or they scheduled some PT, and they kept using crutches. So we want to go from there to this We want to go from there to this document with the camera. And we're looking for clues for healing. So one of the things we said was the swelling was going down. There was no pain, which there was before. The bones were lined up. And stitches were able to come out. So that was some signs that things were going well and that the body was actually healing itself. Why did it show healing? Well, if the swelling is going down, maybe the skin is not irritated as much. And we're just guessing. We're not doctors here, so we're just kind of guessing why that might be an idea that it's a good idea for healing. The bones were lined up, so the bones are back in the correct place. So we want to go back to normal again. And because the stitches were out, the skin's actually holding itself together. It didn't need the stitches to hold it together anymore. So that's a good sign. So that's kind of like showing how it's healing there. We go to our recovery report number 2. So recovery report number 2, again, minimal swelling, so swelling is going down even more. Has more range of motion in the left ankle and toe, so you can move it a little bit more. There's some tingling on top of the foot, so he's getting some sensation back. He wasn't able to feel that before. No pain, which is really good. The skin where the stitches were taken out show more signs of healing, so maybe the skin's looking better. The gap is still closing. They took a cast off, which is a good sign. And they have to wear a special shoe now for 2 weeks to be able to walk a little better. And then come back in 2 weeks to find out what's going on, if they can wear regular shoes again. So let's find out what our things we could use here. So for recovery report number 2, there is feeling in top of foot. There is increased, so my up arrow, increased range of motion, ROM, just to save us a little writing. There is less gap in the bones. Okay, so that's good. So how is this a sign of healing? Well, if he can feel that, so feeling's going back to normal. Range of motion, you can actually kind of do normal things again, so moving foot more normally. And the bones are healing if there's less gap. Okay, let's go to the third one. Our third report is even shorter. Minimal swelling, more range of motion, no tenderness in the foot, so it's not hurting anymore if you just touch it. The bones are lined up, fracture lines are fading, shows the bone that's actually going together, back together again. And they come back in a month. So this report was done on the 16th of April. They're telling this guy not to come back until a month later. So things are looking really good. So again, we go back to our chart. And this one is there's still more range of motion increase. There was more blood flow. I don't know if I mentioned that in the other thing. So blood flow is good. So that means the circulation is getting back to normal. There was less gap in a bone. So bone is healing. Okay. And finally, we go to our last report. So no swelling at all. So not that it's gone down, there's no swelling. Improved range of motion again, no tenderness, no visible lines of cracks in the bones, strong blood flow, And diagnosis, patient does not need to return, and they can go back to engaging in physical activities. So at this point, the person has been healed. It happened in February, according to this scenario. And so February to May, we've healed this broken foot. So let's go back one more time to our chart. So there's no swelling, no pain, no sign of broken crack, or no sign of crack in foot. And all these are signs that the foot's back to normal. And the fact that he can do normal activities is a good sign. So that was our chart, a timeline showing what happens from injury to being healed. We kind of see what's going on with the body as that's happening. Okay, so we just want to make a chart there. You did not have to make this chart. We're going to use that chart now to fill in what you do need to do in your folder, which is this one here. So this says, look back through the doctor's notes and what we saw there, which we've already done on the chart. So what we're going to do here is document some things. So an important clue that could indicate healing and why that would show healing. So all we're really doing is taking one of the things on top here, putting it here, and then the part that was on the bottom is just going on the right side for 5 different things that happen. Okay, so here's the filled in chart. This way we didn't have to go through the whole thing. So what you want to do is maybe just pause the video on this screen here and just copy that down on your first page in the notebook. This is page 1 in the notebook. So go ahead and copy that down, and that is what we did for day 1 of our new unit.